I've been living in Nashville, Tennessee for about the past decade, and I've certainly adapted to some of the more curious things about living here. But some of what I'm about to share with you confuses me to this day. Living in Nashville is like living in 2 or 3 different cities at the same time. From the sports, to the music, to the puzzling nature of a road that seems to somehow be everywhere in Nashville. I'm covering all of the most baffling things about living here, and I'm getting started right now. Have you ever spent years of your life just coping with a problem and accepting it as it is, only to realize later that you can't understand why that problem hasn't been solved yet? I think about one of those puzzling problems here in Nashville pretty frequently now, and I'll share exactly what I mean here shortly. First, if you're new to the channel, my name is Vegh, and solving problems is actually what I do for a living. I'm a local realtor here in Nashville, so if you're thinking about moving to the area, be it in 9 weeks or 9 months, my team and I would be happy to help you find and buy that perfect home here. So shoot me a call, text, or email. My contact information is in the description. Now, what was I saying earlier? Don't want to get this confused. Oh yeah, a problem we have here in Nashville that baffles me to this day is the snowy shutdowns. We're gonna get to the seasonal weather issues in Nashville more in depth later in this video, but to go into detail concerning winters here in Nashville, I have good and bad news. The good news is that Nashville has relatively mild winters. It does get pretty cold sometimes, but if you're from the north, you're gonna find Nashville winters a pretty refreshing change of pace. The bad news is that the city of Nashville doesn't seem to realize that being prepared for the winter weather might be a good idea. And again, it's pretty baffling that it never does. I was born in Michigan, and I can just hear some of my friends and relatives there laughing at Nashville for shutting down from what they would consider a pretty small amount of snow and ice. You can't currently count on seeing plow trucks anytime soon after some snowfall. And so not only can driving be a bit more perilous, but Nashville is also full of transplants that don't know or have forgotten how to drive in snow and ice. And so Nashville shuts down to keep us all from killing each other. Joking. Mostly. While we're on the topic, let's talk about the rest of Nashville's seasons and weather. This is very topical for me right now because while it's technically fall in Nashville, we just experienced the erratic event that we call false fall into second summer. It's pretty much a running joke at this point that while Nashville does cycle through all 4 seasons, it seems to jump around as to which season it will be on a daily basis. I've been sweaty in December and looking for a sweater in June. And I don't think even a meteorologist can help sort through the confusing mess that is Nashville seasons. Something else that can be pretty confusing is how unpredictable the general weather events can be here. It can go from a beautiful sunny day to a torrential downpour before you can even finish planning a day outdoors with your family. I don't think there's anyone who's lived here for a period of time who hasn't gazed up at Nashville's sky with a puzzled look on their face, questioning their life choices. Now, considering Nashville is most well known as Music City, there's something else that both amuses and baffles me, and that's Nashville's sports. We have over 190 live music venues, including some of the most prestigious in the world. We have a plethora of beloved music festivals, including CMA Fest. But when it comes time to socialize with people here on a daily basis, the water cooler conversations are often going to be about the latest game of Nashville sports, rather than the exciting artist that just played at the Grand Ole Opry. And side note, I have a bone to pick with the Opry, but I'll get to that soon. Nashville is a sports town, and to say that it surprised me to learn that is an understatement. And it's such a big deal here that it's even given birth to one of Nashville's many nicknames. Don't get me wrong, Nashville has a culture that is deeply connected to music but you don't seem to experience that fully unless you live in that world or are a musician yourself. Because my experience of Nashville is that music is rarely a topic of conversation around here. And I find that honestly pretty confusing, given how many people move here because of Nashville's musical reputation. Back on the topic, let's talk about Nashville's nicknames because it has a lot of them. The only one I had heard before I moved here was Music City. But Nashville's diverse culture has given rise to what my grandma would say, more nicknames than you can shake a stick at. Nashville is known as Nash Vegas, highlighting the city's similarities to Las Vegas, with its vibrant nightlife, entertainment scene, and the bustling atmosphere of the downtown area. Smashville because of the rabid and enthusiastic Predators fans, the Athens of the South because of the city's dedication to education, and it's probably also called that because of the next confusing thing on my list that I won't spoil yet. And then there's Cashville, which might be my favorite nickname of all. With so many nicknames, it seems that Nashville might have a bit of an identity crisis. But hey, I still love it in all this confusion. Now, we have some pretty amazing architecture here as well, but something I never would have expected to see, especially in a southern city known for its country music, is Nashville's Parthenon. Located in Centennial Park, almost smack dab in the middle of Nashville, is a full-size replica of the ancient Greek Parthenon. Does this confuse anyone else? Come to find out that when this was first built just for the Centennial Exposition in 1897, it was built from temporary materials, but the structure was so popular that in 1920, construction began on a permanent replica, and now this strangely out-of-place landmark remains a part of Nashville's eclectic identity. Now, aside from Nashville's many nicknames, there's also a fair amount of local lingo you need to know to understand what people are talking about in Nashville. For instance, while yes, Nashville is in the Bible Belt, if you hear somebody talking about the mother church of country music, they mean the Ryman Auditorium, which is not a church. If you hear somebody talking about hot chicken, they're not talking about wings tossed in buffalo sauce, but rather a special spicy chicken dish birthed in Nashville. And speaking of food, Nashville has something called a meat and three, a nickname given to restaurants that offer meals composed of a meat and 3 side dishes. Why 3 side dishes instead of the more classic 2? I have no idea, but I'm hoping one day we get 3 meats because that's more my style. And then there's the Grand Ole Opry. Is it a live music show? Is it a radio broadcast? Is it a live music venue? Yes, and further than that, this is not to be confused with Opry Mills, which is a mall, or the Gaylord Opryland, which is a hotel and convention center. With the Gulch, 12 South, the District, and Lower Broad, if you want to learn where anything even is in Nashville, learn the lingo faster than I did when I moved here. Speaking of not knowing where things are, let me tell you about Old Hickory Boulevard. I used to live in a part of Nashville called Antioch, Tennessee, and frequently used to use a road called Old Hickory Boulevard. Then one day I was heading up north into other parts of Nashville and saw another road called Old Hickory Boulevard, which puzzled me to say the least. Then I found the road again further south. This definitely had me perplexed. It had me thinking that whichever people were in charge of naming the roads here just really loved that name. Come to find out that the road was once a nearly unbroken loop that circled the entirety of Nashville. Now it's interrupted by a lake and several rerouted sections. Ultimately, this means if somebody tells you that something is on Old Hickory Boulevard here, you're gonna need them to get real specific for you. On a final quirky note about this, the large neighborhood east of Nashville that is actually known as Old Hickory does have that road run through it, but in the one place you think it would be called Old Hickory Boulevard, it's called Robinson Road instead. I can't make this stuff up. What I can make up is my opinion about the pros and cons of living in Nashville. And I made a video about that right here that you may want to check out to clear up some confusion about life in Nashville. If you liked the video, hit that like button so I can tell my dad that YouTube's not a waste of time and let me live my own life. Thanks for watching, and I certainly hope to Tennessee you soon.